For most of our lives, these clones have had a lot of significance throughout them. I remember growing up with, of course, Rex and Cody and Fives, RIP, Echo, Wolf in combination with Plo Koon. That was one of the best duos out there, so there's a lot to remember about the clones, but this is why the Bad Batch ending, I don't think, is officially the ending of the clones per se, because we know that they are out there. They are still roaming around, causing havoc for the Empire. In a way, what I think Dave Filoni is trying to do with especially Captain Rex and Commander Cody, who is still nowhere to be seen, of course, I think that with these little tidbits, with what we see from these new clone rebels, with Echo, I think Dave is trying to tell us, give us a hint that the clone stories are still not over. Perhaps they're not even close to being over. There was kind of a feeling that with the Clone Wars series and with Season 7 ending and Star Wars Rebels, there was kind of the closure of the clone stories and where they could go, the clone arcs. But I don't think that's really true. I think that with the Bad Batch and how it ended, especially that final scene with Omega leaving Hunter and going to fight for the rebellion, I think that one of those key moments was there is still much to tell about all these clones that are out there, all these Jango clones who previously served the Galactic Republic and now are fighting actively against this new Galactic Empire, against Palpatine, against Vader, and against the Inquisitors. But of course, it's not just the clones, it's other characters too. Of course, in the Bad Batch, one of the main characters we saw even come back from what we thought was death was Asajj Ventress. Even in Tales of the Empire, we see that Barriss Offee is still out there during Imperial times, and even Lin couldn't really kill her, so perhaps she's even alive after Imperial times during the Ahsoka series too. What Dave is trying to do is essentially tell us that there's a lot of more stories and characters out there in the galaxy, and I think that one of the main ones is gonna be this hidden path that we've talked about a lot. There is definitely gonna be, in my opinion, a new series. We've talked about it a lot in this channel, especially. I started really speculating early on that there is definitely a connection between the hidden path, the one that Obi-Wan discovered during his travels in his series, and this new clone faction, because even though we didn't get an official clone rebellion on Kamino as it was in Star Wars Legends, now that EU folktale is not canon anymore, but we definitely saw what happened in the classic Battlefront games. You, as Boba Fett, joined the Imperial Stormtroopers against a clone rebellion headed by Kaminoans. So we didn't get that, yes, but we perhaps are gonna get a clone rebellion in a totally different way. I think that a clone rebellion is coming in the version of the hidden path with Captain Rex, Wolf, Gregor, with Commander Cody perhaps, definitely with Echo, and now we see Omega join in. So this will essentially be the clone uprising, the clone rebellion that the fans have so longed for, that we deserve definitely, because that clone rebellion that we got in the classic Battlefront series, that was very memorable. That was something that still lingers in my mind decades later. Of course, we can't talk about the hidden path without talking about Quinlan Vos, and who is directly involved with Asajj Ventress, of course, and Asajj did make her return in the Bad Batch. So my opinion is that definitely Captain Rex or Commander Cody is working with Asajj Ventress simultaneously. In this, I could see Echo as well, because Echo is a sort of a lone wolf. We saw him in the Bad Batch helping Omega escape and helping the children escape too, outside of the Bad Batch faction. And once he finishes his job, he goes and rejoins Captain Rex at times. So you see that Echo is definitely that lone wolf who does things by his own way. So he could definitely interchange between Asajj Ventress and Captain Rex, although I think in the end, in this new series, we're gonna see him fight side by side, because they need numbers definitely against the Empire. The Empire's resources are vast, and almost unlimited comparing to some clones. Perhaps we don't know how many clones are actually with Rex and with what will be a clone rebellion. Perhaps the clone rebellion will be a small faction of clones, but the Empire will definitely feel its impact for sure. This new series could also shed light to a lot of questions we had, not only from the Obi-Wan series with the hidden path, but where is Commander Cody? How did Wolf defect from the Empire? Last we saw Wolf, he did not defect, and in the finale, we didn't see anything about Wolf or hear anything about him. We speculated endlessly that after Wolf released Rex and the others, he probably got snitched on and got imprisoned, so perhaps this is how he escaped the Empire just before he got caught and rejoined Rex to go on the offensive, to go fight the Empire together with his clone brothers. But there is a different side to this with Asajj Ventress 2 and Quinlan Vos. If we end up seeing a grown-up Omega joining the rebellion, and in the rebellion's midst you also have Asajj Ventress going up against, let's say, Inquisitors, for example, that would just be beautiful. That would be perfect, simply because it would balance things out. You know that the rebellion will have trouble if they only use soldiers, if they only use ships. At this point, even using these resources, they are outnumbered, they are outgunned, and they are outmatched because the Empire has vast resources, superior technology, and sheer numbers. The rebellion is at a low point even in those departments, let alone if the Inquisitor joins or Darth Vader, they immediately are at a huge disadvantage. But now think about it. The rebellion goes on a fight. They have an Inquisitor, they have Darth Vader. Enter Asajj Ventress, enter Quinlan Vos. Now, the Bad Batch finale doesn't actually tell us when exactly Omega joins the rebellion, meaning that Omega and Asajj Ventress will link up. As we saw, Asajj Ventress had a very strong affinity for Omega during the later episodes of Bad Batch Season 3, so she will already be familiar with Omega, and once she joins the rebellion, they will probably have some adventures together, meaning that, of course, we might see this in a future animated show. As we've discussed many a times, we'll love to see another clone series this time around. They are not the government, they are not the Republic, they are the rebels. They are the outsiders, meaning the clones, Rex, Hauser, Cody perhaps, and even Echo. During this show, during Rex's adventures and the clones, while they're fighting the Empire, they will of course be sometimes outmatched by Inquisitors. This is why I'm thinking structurally for this show. I know that they will need all the help they can get. If you see the story arcs, you know that once clones are involved, in the original Clone Wars series, you know that once clones were involved, you had separatist droids. So everything went sort of in the middle. Whoever could beat their opponent would win. But sometimes if Jedi generals were also involved, like Anakin, like Obi-Wan, like Ahsoka, you would see General Grievous get involved too. Perhaps Count Dooku. So things would always balance out in the Clone Wars show sometimes. And I would love for this to be true in this new series as well, meaning that Asajj would get ample amount of time to show her skills off. I mean, just imagine Asajj Ventress versus one of the Inquisitors. Asajj Ventress versus the Grand Inquisitor even. That would be just a great duel, a great show. And of course, the ultimate show, the ultimate duel, Asajj Ventress versus Darth Vader. Don't forget that in the original Clone Wars cartoon, you have Asajj Ventress versus a young Anakin Skywalker. In fact, the scar that Anakin has on the side of his eye was done by a young Sith assassin by the name of Asajj Ventress, who was then under the tutelage of Count Dooku. As we always say, it all connects. It's like poetry, it rhymes. The immortal words of George Lucas still ring true to this day. I mean, I would love to see that in this animated show in whatever form it comes. I welcome it thoroughly. There are just numerous possibilities knowing that Asajj is now still alive. She was presented in the Bad Batch season 3. She survived, of course. She went to live on. We know through the Obi-Wan series that Quinlan Vos is alive too, so there's a lot of possibilities, and the matches, the duels, the possible deaths. We might finally see Quinlan Vos die in this new series. How would he die? Asajj Ventress 2 might actually die too. So there's a lot of possibilities because, as we always, refer to, this is kind of a hindrance, kind of a problem for Star Wars, but it is true at the very end that in the original series, we just don't see these characters, and the reason might be that they die. However, with the Bad Batch series, we saw that might not actually be true. Just because we don't see them in the original trilogy doesn't mean that they are not alive. Also with Ahsoka, of course, that rings true as well. So I would love to know your thoughts down below, so talk to me down in the comments.